is a situation when you're paying $5 million to the school, $1 million to PSA, $500,000 to the IDA. That's $5 million a year out of your operating costs. And we've never met our operating costs yet in 6 years.
Yes, sir.
This water has definitely got to come from the users of it.
Exactly.
I mean, we can't pay it to the landowner, we're putting $1 million of their dollars into it.
That's no problem. Okay. We can do that.
Increased it.
No problem.
I was gonna say, that's what happened.
Guess what the cost increase.
Signature right there.
Okay. It was 24, so all you gained was $1,000.
Yeah. Yep.
I think he said
Very much so. And everybody is.
here it is, 8. I bet it's not here.
Right here. Was one of their they said they had 75 homes. I asked for a list of them. I thought it was 47.
That's releasing your phone to us.
Tom?
Good evening, sir.
Don't have that, does it? Oh.
Come in, sir. Anyway, I'd like to know where they got that number.
You all right this evening? You all right this
That
evening?
shot when I asked for that. Who's or who's?
I think all that is yours.
I asked for that.
I've tried to keep mine, so I think all that is yours.
Spread for one.
Yeah. Well, they've come by and just dropped it over the sides, what they've done.
I know. Can be sometimes, occasionally.
Here's the other one. The other one's from the city. Call this meeting of the Carroll County Board of Supervisors to order. And if, Rex, if you will, lead us in the pledge and invocation, I greatly appreciate it.
We'll do the pledge first. Pledge allegiance to the
flag
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, help us tonight to make appropriate decisions as we look at our budget and make the appropriate decisions for the future. Let's think about those who are in need of our prayers, and thank everyone for coming out tonight. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen.
Do thank everybody for coming out tonight. So we get started on our budget for the year. And Steve does have something for closed session, but I think we're going to wait and move it to the end of the meeting and do it. He said a short closed session. That way we can get everybody else out of the way and get it moved on. So first thing we have is the budget calendar. And that's what was been placed in front of us, 2018-19 budget calendar. And I guess if we want to approve that, I need to have a motion to approve it.
This is a tentative thing, and I'm sure if something came up, and we needed to make a change, or the school board did, that we would be flexible, I'm assuming.
I would imagine if we needed to have a meeting about something, that would be no problem. We needed to change something on it, should be no issues with anything.
This is a recommendation.
Yeah.
You can always change anything. You guys can-
Is the 12th our normal meeting?
February the 12th and March 12th, those are our normal meeting dates, correct?
I move that we adopt this budget calendar to develop our budget.
I have a motion of Mr. Martin to accept the budget calendar. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Mr. Hill. Any other discussion? Take a vote. Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. McCraw?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Dr. Littrell?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item on the agenda list is the revenue, projected revenues for fiscal year 19. I think Nikki is going to walk us through that, maybe?
With a little help from my friends. Okay, when we talked about having a budget work session regarding, in this format, in the form of a meeting, we talked about also making it an educational process. So in this first work session, I tried to put together a presentation with a little bit of history, a little bit of, what we're required to do by the state, a little bit of history of what we've done in Carroll County, and where do we want to go from here. Okay, so state requirements basically dictate what our policies and procedures are for almost everything that we do, but specifically with adopting the budget. We have a uniform fiscal year for localities, which is July 1 to June 30. Time and preparation and approval of the budget. You have to adopt a budget before the beginning of the fiscal year. So you have to adopt a budget by June 30. Basically tells you what the budget should show in terms of actual numbers, projected numbers, and you can also include some reserve for contingencies and capital improvements. Of course, you have to publicize it in the paper, and if you want to make an amendment to your budget, if your budget amendment is more than 1%, you have to have a public hearing.
Excuse me. Sometimes things, you see it so much, you forget it, okay? And I finally figured out that a budget is not in concrete and steel, but it is a working document that you make adjustments to, and I just plead ignorant. I don't know. I guess it's age or something, I don't know.
Yeah, your budget is a forecast, and hopefully, I've been doing this for a long time, and I think one of the approaches that I typically try to take whenever formulating a budget is to be really conservative on the revenue, make it reasonable in order what we think we anticipate on collecting, and also on the expenditures to kind of monitor and watch as you're going along throughout the year and make adjustments accordingly. Now, if you know you're going to have to amend your expenditures for a certain amount, make sure somewhere you're going to have additional revenue to offset those expenditures. And that way, it shouldn't get you in a position where you're having to increase your overall budget. Okay, so in terms of a history, some of our budget challenges for the past several years, QSCAD, it's a really big debt service payment. It's for Phase 3 construction on the schools.
Would you just tell everybody here what that QSCAD stands for?
Qualified School Construction Bonds. And a lot of times our financing for schools is either done through the State Literary Fund. Sometimes you issue bonds for those things. The term on those issuances are usually 30 to 40 years on the QSCAD bonds because we have an interest rate subsidy, basically creating that borrowing is interest-free. The term on that is 15 years. So we have to pay a lot of money back quickly, even though we are getting interest expense that we pay refunded to us, not at exactly 100%. It's declined.
That was through the state of Virginia, I thought, but wasn't it?
No, it was a federal issue.
Federal, but the good thing was you got interest-free money. The bad news is you had to pay it back in 15 years, and that amount, and was it 15 million, maybe. So you got hit with $1,200,000 payment in 1 year. Overall, it was a good thing, but it sort of took your breath at first.
That's the least it is. For the principal on Q-Scab, I think the first payment was 1.75 million. And this payment, in I think 3 or 4 years, will go up to 1.25. It's gonna
We've
go
been
up a
in
little
paying
bit.
it for how many years so far?
We are in the
Third, or I was gonna say third.
Third year?
Third.
Yeah. Some of the other school debt is falling off a little bit over time. I think we had $83,000 that less on our school debt in the budget currently that we have. Oh, so it's kind of offsetting it a little bit. Capital needs, ambulances, we're always going to need. Economic development, trying to attract industry here can be a trying feat, so a lot of times you have some incentives associated with that if you can. Trying to.
There are existing incentives in place that we have to honor, so I'm trying to be very careful with economic development, without taking my expensive day trip to Miami or anything like that. But there are a few things that are already underway.
And I've said this before, but the positive thing is that Carroll County is so far ahead with school construction. Now, the bad thing is you got to pay for it, but we did it at low construction cost and low interest rates and
Short terms.
Short, yeah, and we're so. You can drive an hour from this place, and it's a different world. And I'm thinking West Virginia, but but they're good and bad. Okay.
Another budget challenge that we've had is reducing our expenditures on expenditures that have already been reduced. It seems like we have been leaving a lot of positions unfilled as of late. We were, in some areas, could be thin to begin with, and we're still leaving those positions either vacant or unfilled as we go on. So you're basically trying to do the same amount of work with less resources. We also have a lack of reserves available to bridge the gap in the budget. I think one of the biggest reasons for this, and everyone else can chime in if they want, is we spent a lot of money buying up some buildings in the industrial park. And while that was a good investment and it's put people to work at places like Vanguard and Virginia Produce, it also basically took all the reserves that we have and are paying them back slowly over time. So we don't have those reserves as we once did. Back in 2016, I took a little slide from my 16 presentation, which was, what exactly are our options for budgeting, for balancing the budget. You don't have a lot as a Board of Supervisors. You can increase taxes, which is not popular. You can reduce your services provided to citizens, but the environment that we're in, I would say that people are obviously wanting more now, not less, in terms of services. And redistributing resources. And back in 2016, I actually crossed off that redistributing resources. So now what? We've been working on recapturing expenditures where we can. For example, when we changed the budget to charge electrical and telephone to the budgets, that allowed us to recapture in some departments that are reimbursable to us. And we're still trying to do things like that. I think the new phone system, that was one of the investments that we made that we felt like over the long term was going to reduce the amount of our expenditures long term. And I think we're still trying to think outside the box on what can we do.
So are you able, with the new phone system, are we able to charge the chargeable departments for their usage?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Well, the other thing is it's a VoIP system, so we don't get charged. It's not like buying a data.
Yeah.
We own these handsets, and we just charge it as however many we hand out that we charge. And in some cases, we can do enough cost to more than offset the cost of putting that network up.
What positions have we eliminated in the last 3 years?
In a slide a little bit, I think it may be the next slide. And that doesn't go back 3 years, so I'm going to have to think for just a minute. You want me to skip ahead to it? Dan? No, it actually is right here. All right, and goals. These are the goals that we had as a group last year, which was conservative spending while addressing some prioritized needs for the county. We had 3 positions right now that are eliminated for an estimated savings for next year of $121,000.
Which positions are those?
That is the position in admin, the position in finance, and there was also, not finance, admin
IT.
and IT,
And secretary.
and it may be, I'm sorry, it may be Benita's
Yeah, it might
position in the
be.
treasurer's office.
Part of it, yeah.
We had 2 positions right now that we've remained open, one in recreation and one in the farmer's market, which would be a savings for this year of another $36,000. We actually refinanced the complex debt, not changing the term on that. Basically, it's going to pay off at the same time. It's going to pay off at the same time, but it actually reduced the amount because the interest rate was less. So for fiscal year 19, that's going to be a savings of about $28,000.
Is it going to change our payments considerably much, or?
It will, over the life of the loan, it'll save us $500,000, but it's still going to pay off at 2035, which was the original maturity date. So we didn't go out any further.
Yeah.
It's just a savings over the remaining term. So, like I said, thinking outside the box and trying to continue to reduce expenditures where we can.
On the flip side, though, is that for the county administrator's office to do more and more and more and handle a lot of requests and so forth, it takes arms and legs, and that's personnel. And I learned a long time ago that there's a limit to how much stuff people can get done, and I mean, I just caution us about just
There's efficiencies
Cutting
that you can
people.
lose, most
Yeah.
definitely. And
Yeah.
I think what we're trying to do is think outside the box and figure out how we can reconfigure our area just to make sure that we have coverage all the time. Because, the worst thing you can do in government is to have people say, they're not there. There's nobody there at 4:30. There's nobody answering the phone. So we're trying collectively to kind of pick up for each other and just work as a team. One of your goals is to eliminate the need for the revenue anticipation note, which in order to do that, we're going to have to build reserves, and that has not happened as of yet. I think you all wanted to maintain the current levels of service and still address prioritized capital needs. We still have a fire truck that's coming in the spring, I think. I think it's in the spring. Budget goals for this year. From what I'm hearing, and these are just my guesses, I'm really going to need some input from you all, but I think I was safe to put on number 1, which was no tax increase. I think everybody is pretty much in agreement that you don't want a tax increase. And we also want to build reserves. Okay, so that puts us already at, okay, how are we going to do that? Remember, you got 3 choices. And one of them's eliminated here. So we redistribute resources, or we make some cuts. So this was just in here. I left 3 and 4. I'd love to have some input as to what some of the goals are collectively as a group.
I think you hit the nail on the head twice there.
Are these the only 2?
I'm going to throw out a couple.
Okay.
Hard bill for fire EMS. Bring back the county sticker, and raise personal property tax on some of the, on vehicles, not
real estate?
Not real estate.
Okay.
We need to take a look at those things, I agree.
I called around after you were in the other day and gave us kind of your list. I called around and got the tax rates for all the other jurisdictions. We can pull it up in a minute if you'd like. It's in an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. And basically, this was kind of a little tutorial for you all. And I do plan on, I can either print this out and give it to you at the end or email it, whichever is your preference. But basically, the majority of our budget, of our $41 million budget, is general property taxes. Whether it's 17, 18, 19, 20. One thing that's going to be for sure is that the majority of our budget is general property taxes. You also have other local taxes like meals tax, lodging tax. Gosh, we could go on and on.
Yeah.
I know. It's basically the second page of your revenue report. Local sales tax, franchise taxes, bank stock taxes. Recovered costs, well, fines and forfeitures are basically attributable to the Sheriff's Department. Fines and forfeitures, they're local fines on the highway. Recovered costs, we are fiscal agent for PSA, solid waste, and Precita. It used to be Farmers Market too, but they've now come back under the county. So that basically, the recovered costs, a good bit of that is for those three agencies. There's a little bit more in there too.
As far as the landfill, are we the fiscal agent and then disperse out?
They pay us back 100%.
Okay.
So really, when you get to those three budgets,
Does the PSA pay us back 100%?
100%, but then there's the availability fee, which is in another department. So the payroll and all that is reimbursed 100%.
How about the debt?
Yes.
We
The
pay that.
availability fee is the debt fee.
He's asking about the PSA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I think it's PSA that's got $100 and some thousand surplus. Is it PSA or
Carryover?
Yeah, carryover. Is,
Don't know.
should they have that much money, and why should they have that much money?
I don't know they do. And forgive me, I
Well-
didn't look at their financial report.
Yeah.
Well, who does their budget? I mean, I've never seen a public hearing on their budget.
The PSA has a public hearing on their budget.
I've been here 2 years and I've seen one.
PSA, it wouldn't, the budget public hearing for the PSA wouldn't be done on the county side. That'd be done on the PSA side.
I attend every meeting.
Okay.
I'm not fussing, I'm just,
I'm just trying to get to the point here. Find out how come there's no eyes on the PSA budget.
I don't serve on the PSA.
I guess if I go to PSA and ask questions, it helps, so.
I mean,
Go ahead.
shouldn't they be, I mean, I would assume that they would come before we'd have a work session that they would bring their presentation of their expenditures to us to approve. I mean, we do it with recreation. They've got a board.
They have a commission.
The steel falls under the county purview, does it not?
Yeah.
The PSA is a separate standalone agency.
Well, let's take our money back then. If they're standalone, why are we giving them money?
Because the board adopted agreements to
All
do
right,
that.
can we renegotiate those agreements? I believe according to what I read, those agreements that they can be renegotiated.
But PSA depends on a certain amount of money to make the wheels turn, so.
When the debt was issued, the Board of Supervisors at that time made a commitment to fund those debt service payments.
But I thought this was for the,
I think there's two different issues, if I understand correctly. One issue is, I think, supplemental payments that we make annually in order to help them make their debt service. That kind of arrangement certainly is negotiable. The debt that the PSA has taken on as an obligation of the county, as something that was approved by a past board of supervisors, the only thing we can do with that, if PSA would like some assistance, is we could look at doing things like we did with that loan we had with the school.
Reducing the rate or something, yes.
That's about all you can do with that.
Right.
So, but yes, as far as how we operate, how much we give them, that certainly could be discussed. And I would think that in the other direction, you know, they would want to lay out their plan, you know, for how it all comes together and what we're doing with it. I mean, you know, I think that would be a fair way to do it, would be to look into the whole picture.
Which the availability fee did go down this year based on negotiations. Because they had a rate increase, they basically,
Well, how come we weren't provided a copy of that? If what I've got from them is the same one that was 2 or 3 years ago. I've not seen that. That's why I'm just trying to get it clear here.
a copy of what, though? I don't
The
know.
agreement, availability agreement, one for sewer and one for water, correct?
On a specific debt service issuance?
No, on the availability at Wildwood.
I don't understand the question, and I'm sorry, when I'm talking about the availability fee, I'm talking about the fee that is funded by Carroll County Board of Supervisors, transferred to PSA.
So that they
Is that what you're
balance the
talking about?
budget.
No, I'm
How much
talking,
is that a year?
$996,000.
Okay.
And that was reduced from what was it?
Like 1 point,
It's gone down about, what, $200,000?
not that much, it was
So
more
that-
like 50.
That's on top of the agreement that's set up with the PSA and with the IDA for Wildwood, correct? Is that separate?
That's, yeah, altogether different.
But-
I think that's what Rex might be talking about, because that is supposedly a $39,300 a month availability fee. that we're
For
doing.
water.
For water, the
and
IDA.
8,000 for sewer.
For sewer.
That we're paying?
Says, well,
Well, if
the IDA is paying it.
We're paying the IDA.
Are you,
I'm not sure.
and I'm not trying to be coy, I'm not, I just don't understand the question. I know about this one, which is the availability fee. They give us, it's basically the agreements that the board agreed to when we issued debt for the projects in the PSA years ago, and that's a sum of their payments that the board committed to. It got reduced because there was a rate increase. So we were the benefactor, basically, of the citizens paying more for their water.
PSA could get to the point where it was
Self-supporting.
We wouldn't give them anything. You know, we're basically just trying to give them the minimum amount so that they can meet the obligations that we've already.
And
We're not going to look at your brain here.
And one thing that would help tremendously is at Wildwood, if we ever get a company come in over there and they used a blue zillion gallons of water, we'd probably have more money than you could shake a stick out, because the industries end up subsidizing the water and sewer, and
Yeah.
I have commended Dr. Littrell for being on the PSA. I think every supervisor should be on it. They are an agency that's just an scapegoat. You can't vote on them, but they got authority. I don't like it. I have never liked it. I think every one of the supervisors should be on the PSA.
I think at one time they were, and then one time they weren't. It kind of, there's an ebb and flow to that.
But part of it is that under, and if I'm out in left field, somebody slow me down, the financing and expense is easier for a county in a lot of situations to have a public service authority and an industrial development authority. It allows you to do some things through those two that we as a board got to do. But it's
you as a board can't do in some.
Yeah, it's sort of like they're sort of like your wife's mother. They ain't blood kin to you, but but you're hooked in because of your wife and it's her mother.
I hope I never have one.
That you better watch what you're doing and saying because it's going to affect you. But
Well, what we can do there is the same thing as with the sense that the closer they can get to being self-sufficient in one way or another,
The better off
the
we'll all
less
be.
that we would have to send over to them. But we do not have the choice as a county to just not fund the debt we've already got. We are required to pay that somehow.
So there's an availability agreement that's not tied to Wildwood in any way, correct? That the one you're talking about?
There's several though, because it's for
Okay.
each project.
Each project that they do,
Yeah.
we have to guarantee that there's going to be that much.
We have to guarantee
Yeah.
those payments.
Okay.
And it's actually, if you look at the PSA CIP that has historically been presented to you for approval, those are those payments.
So that on
Those
top-
projects is
so-
what-
So then on top of that, we have this other agreement that's actually with IDA and PSA for Wildwood. There's another availability agreement for that.
the IDA owns this building, correct?
So, and the IDA is actually I know it's with the IDA, but we're actually ultimately responsible for it because the IDA has no way of making income, correct?
Is that on capacity? You're correct on that. IDA has no.
Yes.
Okay, but that's not something we actually have to pay yet.
No, it's supposedly it started.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just reading the agreements here.
When were they dated though?
2010.
2010 was when the last amendments were made to them.
Okay.
It'd probably help if we had every single agreement that we have with any other entity that we've got any money tied to. We need copies of that. It'd be nice to have a booklet that I could go through and follow this paper trail, and it would be very helpful to us. Just like this, I feel like we could renegotiate this, especially if they have carryover $157,000. That's just throwing that out there. That's one area that we could make some adjustments on.
We can take it under advisement. What's next?
Well, that's right, we're not gonna stop it here, but if we do those things.
They have problems with numbers, I find. Here in the paper, plainly states they got 75 agreements for water in Wood Creek. I get a copy of it, and I count pretty good. I count 47.
Okay.
So,
We don't oversee the PSA, and I understand that,
But some counties, they do. Sometimes it's just a function of the county itself. You don't have to.
well, the city of Galax has a water and sewer department under the city. They don't
A lot of
have
the counties have.
They don't have a separate authority that
Right.
governs that.
Yep.
So-
That's under the purview of the board to make that decision, I guess it would be, would it not? I mean, I know.
I'd have to look at the bylaws.
know
I mean, they were adopted.
About 10 years
a long
ago,
time
the Patrick County totally eliminated their PSA and then redone it. That's why I'm asking.
Pulaski County's got a separate PSA, or did it?
They
Okay,
have an authority, PSA authority.
New River, yeah,
yeah,
Pepper's Ferry.
yeah.
Pepper's Ferry.
And hooked in with Montgomery and maybe even Giles, I'm not sure.
They have, yes, they have a regional agreement.
But let's go forward. I've done
Okay,
well
all
to
right. I was like, I went way off topic.
got
I'm
a
working on
feeling
revenue here.
We're not going to get rich over working, reducing PSA and IDA, I got a feeling.
Could we go back to the slide before
This
that
one?
That first line, there's a difference of $512,000. Is that just due to reassessment?
That was part of it. Part of it was a reduction in the delinquent collections that the Budget Committee wanted last year. If I'm not mistaken.
You
I
got the
can-
delinquents added in there?
These are estimates. 2018 are estimates. If you look at, we went, and I don't have the old budget. Yeah, well, I don't have it. I think the,
That's exactly what it was. If you recall, we went with a more conservative number because we had so many problems from the year prior. If you'll recall, we had a pretty extensive debate, and the numbers that were sticking in my head, there was 1.5 million.
yeah, it was,
And then it was reduced back down to.
and the budget committee wanted that number
1.15.
reduced,
Yeah, and-
closer to actual.
And that was for the purposes, and it turned out.
That's,
Do they look like?
that number right there looks, but that doesn't include,
I brought the 17 actual thing. We're gonna hand them out.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Fran. Fran's got the 2018 estimates, and
but that 22 million, that doesn't include the debt.
Okay, thank you.
That sent you
Delinquents,
here
I mean,
last year and didn't.
right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it
does.
It does. 18 estimates.
And
It does
Thank
on the
you.
budget, well,
yes.
These are rough estimates. We don't have all the
Now, the
completions
reports
for
I've been giving you all
17
recently
million.
are actual bills. There's difference, actual and budget.
And budget.
this is estimated.
and
We
Nikki,
budget based off an estimate, and we typically budget a percentage of the estimate. And what I was kind of trying to demonstrate in the next slide is budget versus actual just for this past tax year, okay?
you're gonna claim that in addition now.
Answer his question. I don't know. Dr. Litchell, did you have another question on this slide?
That was only one.
Okay, all right. I didn't want to.
Thank you.
Okay. What I attempted to provide you here is budget versus build, okay, for the current year. So for right here, here are your budgeted numbers for real estate, personal property, mobile home, machinery and tools, merchants capital. Now, that's just for the current year, no delinquent recs on this one, okay? But then here's what was actually billed, according to the updated figures from the
Now,
Commissioner of
that's the
Revenue.
big, yeah, that's the actual amount. Not the
This is
budget.
actual, this is what we budgeted. There's a difference.
All right, so like on real
2.6
estate,
million.
you estimated a little low in the budget there, right?
Yes. We based the estimate as a percentage of the estimates. So it-
In personal property, in the budget, you estimated much lower there coming in, and...
than what
just
was actually billed.
Remember, the build is not collected, build is billed.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense? Does that slide make sense to everybody that's here?
The billed amounts were probably that much higher because of
Reassessment for one,
reassessment.
new construction
and new
for
construction,
another.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're all working off of estimates at any given time, and depending on when you're formulating your estimates and adopting your budget to getting to actual, there's been probably a 15, 16, right now, think about it. We're in January, France just handed us the estimates. Well, they're not gonna bill until closer to September,
Yeah.
and then collect in December. So we're working way ahead of time trying to estimate these figures.
And if I'm, all right, like the totals down there,
Ooh, this
for the
is-
budget, you estimated, 19 million,
Yes,
but we billed for 22.
yes.
And hopefully, we will be closer to the 22 or somewhere.
You're not gonna get the total.
No,
No.
no.
I've been doing this for years, you're not gonna get the total.
Yeah.
The total billing, yeah.
You may on, you may on
Certain
PSCs.
things, yeah. but
You know,
not-
your public service corps will pay you
Right.
100%.
Do you know what percentage it was done at? Do you know what
90
percentage you used? 96?
96 of the estimate from back then.
But Nikki,
96 was the estimate of the collection estimate, not the bill estimate. From the bill estimate, it was something like 88. We were extremely.
But now, that was only for real estate, Benita. Personal property was only budgeted at like, it was,
400,000.
let me think, maybe 68% on the personal property, because those are typically harder to
Right.
collect. This bottom line too, I don't know how I've missed my heading here, but that's your vehicle license fee.
we were deliberately very, very conservative after the extensive discussion that we had, because we didn't want to end up in that same kind of bind where we didn't get to an estimate that was too.
It might be conservative for this county, but compared to other counties, it's way high.
Right.
What's way high?
The
Let me pass this out if I can while we're on the taxes.
I didn't get the,
This
Budget
is
versus the estimated.
your budgeted delinquent taxes and amounts collected. You will see,
Transfers.
Mr. LaRue came to me in 2000 and I think it was, I think it was 11, telling me that the school system needed something and they needed money. And I told him at that time I would work really hard on that for that 1 year. Because you're eating up your delinquent, you're eating up your cushion. If you estimate your delinquents high, the county has no cushion.
In other words,
And that's what they use to operate on for the things they don't have. So if you've got a smaller amount on your delinquents, and of course we would collect over that, then that's your money. But it's not been done, it's not been done for quite a few years. If you'll notice, it has been going up and up and up on your delinquents. So when it goes up and up and up, you're eating away at your bank. You don't have that cushion any longer.
the extra money is.
Right, right.
And the other,
That's the way I look at it.
the other,
It's also a function of how much is delinquent in the first place. That's available to be collected as delinquent instead of being collected on time. Doesn't that also have to be going up and up and up in order for this to even happen?
Well, you're going up on your amounts.
oh, yeah, that's the difference. See, it was 1.4 million.
here,
Look, you had the number I was needing.
What's the number you need?
This one was the one they were
Oh,
asking for
yeah.
a minute ago. Why did it change?
Now, Nikki just informed me a while ago that
And it's-
you all were wanting some information on the yellow highlighted areas from me, and I don't have anything for that. I can work on it and get some data together and go from there, but, you know.
here's a problem. We set the high delinquent collection. It doesn't come in, and we base our expenditures on that collection.
Exactly.
That's exactly where we are at this point in time. That's the way it's been going on for 6 years. So we base our expenditures on what we anticipate getting. And it goes back 2012, it was what, 3 million? Each and every year, it's over $1 million. We keep dropping down. That's why we've had to borrow money for the last 3 years. Or do revenue anticipation note. So the best thing to do is base it on reasonable revenues. Don't count the delinquent. If a delinquent comes in, then when that money comes in, we put it out on the CIPs or wherever else we need. That way, we're not spending money that we don't have. Now, it's going to hurt because you're going to have to reduce your expenditures.
Well, Rex, wouldn't you say that's exactly what happened last year when you look at, we budgeted 19.8 million, but billed out 22.5?
Where are you looking at here?
This is what we budgeted for current real estate, personal property, mobile homes, machinery and tools, merchants capital,
That's
all
right.
this.
Now, where are we going to be this year at the end of the time?
Well, we billed out 22.5.
Okay, well, let me ask this
Okay.
though, what is going to be what's a realistic number? Yeah, we build out 22.5, but what's a realistic number?
That
That's
number is 88%. So that's saying the real estate
2 million.
collection is 88%.
The 2 million left over brings it just to 88% budgeted.
No, it kind of depends on the class. Like, I
Right,
budgeted
right.
100%, 100% of the estimate for, like, if you just look at your revenue report, which I don't, do I have one?
I see what you're saying, but you've
This is-
budgeted 100%, you've got 100% on some of these line items, it's on this report, right?
Of what was estimated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like on PSCs. Real estate, we budgeted 96% of what the estimate at the time was, okay, which was 13.8 million. If you look in the budgeted revenue that you have in front of you, that's 96% of actual. So it's realistic to say this year, we probably should at least collect $14,148,464, which is 96% of what we actually bill. Do you think, I mean, typically where we run, I would think 96 would be a good collection percentage on current real estate taxes?
Might be by the end of June,
Yeah.
but, you know.
But here, we've never collected over $1 million on real estate.
I'm talking about
Delinquents.
current. These are only current amounts. This has nothing to do with delinquents.
Right, I passed that out a little ahead of time.
Okay. I'm only talking
I
about
thought
current
you said the
taxes.
22 million was included delinquents.
No, this 22 million is what we billed.
Another sheet was showing a budgeted number that included delinquents, but this is the actual bill for this one current year.
One current year.
Go back to the other one,
Here?
there. So that general property taxes doesn't match the other one down there.
Nope. That is a category, general property taxes includes delinquents.
Right.
These estimates include delinquents. Okay?
You know, if you took
That's
the
a
link-
total of the,
If you took the
all
numbers
of
out of
these
this
taxes.
page here, that would lower the number down in the bottom to
Right.
38.
39
Then it
million.
would match the other.
That's, yeah.
Okay.
And that is actually part of the discussion we're having, is how big should that number be? Like 20,
That's what they're-
Exactly.
3 million.
If you go to your second page, the first total general property taxes, right now, our estimates are 21,558.
And that's an estimate that is roughly 96%?
Now, on the real estate, 96%.
So it's going to average itself out to, okay.
It's only a 68% collection
Yeah.
rate on personal property. It just really depends on the
All right, well,
classification.
let me ask you, all right, if we're going to do that and we continue this and we collect all the delinquencies, where does that leave us then for that next year? If we collected them all,
It
that's
leaves our
going to put us
cushion
down
back
at
for,
39 million, right?
So it would leave us with $4 million in the bank.
it would fulfill our fund balance requirement.
Not as long as we continue to have our expenditures match the revenue that we anticipated
Projected
revenue.
revenue, yeah.
No, okay, I really think that we're missing something on this slide here
We'd
because,
have to do adjustments to accept that extra money, and hopefully we can put it somewhere safe and good.
oh, I wouldn't even do adjustments on it.
He's got, the point he's making is that if we did actually collect that much more than we planned, we would. That'd be a happy adjustment.
Yeah, but we wouldn't make an adjustment for expenditures because we would,
No,
okay.
that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
The budget would be adjusted for this increase that just fell out of the sky, that's all.
I feel like what Rex is trying to get across, and I think I picked up on it. Yes, the budget is a living, breathing, moving object. But I think what he's trying to say is, if we take our projected revenues and budget to that, budget our expenditures to that, we're not ever going to come in at the right place. We're always going to have more because we're not collecting as much. Do you understand does that help anyway in what he's trying to say?
But
Does it help you? Do you want to translate for me?
But
In other words, you're putting your projections.
And using that to do
Say to 22
Your
million.
expenditures.
yeah.
We match,
You're putting and you're saying that your expenditures are coming in right at 22
At 22,
million.
yeah.
You have no cushion.
There's no cushion in
You
that.
have no leeway.
That's right.
Is that what you're saying?
And I say, we budgeted 19.8 million, our expenditures were based off of this, and we billed this. So you have a $2.6 million cushion already built in that you wouldn't expend.
Okay, I understand what
Plus an
you're saying.
additional $4 million in the delinquent taxes, which is closer to 6.
But you're not gonna get it to the actual bill. Never
No.
has happened. I mean.
It's
that's
not gonna happen, there's no way it can
It's not
happen.
gonna happen.
No, but even
So
if we
you're
fall
two-
short by half, you've still collected an additional $1.375 million, right?
Right, we're starting with a number that's 88% of middle. That's where we're starting.
So you're
Well,
saying the 19 million
That's not true.
is 88% of the 22?
Yep.
That means
Why are you shaking your head, Rex? Is there,
We're basing our expenditures on this $22 million.
That's right. We're basically.
Basing it on
19 million.
Based on
Yes.
1980.
All right, well, how come we keep getting in the hole each and every year? We have to borrow money.
we don't usually budget $2.6 million less revenue than what we bill.
So This is the next year's budget, projected budget.
No, this is this year.
This year's, okay, that's what I mean.
If you look at your revenue report, which you may not have one, let's just take public service, okay? On the public service, we've already collected almost $42,000 more. $52,000 more than what we budgeted, extra. We're not going to do a budget amendment for that. We're not going to go out and spend it. Now, that's not to say some of our expenditures aren't running over,
But,
because they are.
but Nikki, we're trying to learn. Haven't you learned the lesson in some ways? If we keep coming up short, don't you adjust your figures and build in some cushion, and that's what you've done?
That's what we've done.
Just for
So
an
you're
example.
calling the 2.6 your cushion.
That is a cushion. Is it not?
You're collecting to the penny?
No, like I said just a minute ago, it's, even if we only collect half of what we didn't budget for, because it's gonna be more, it's $52,000 alone in the PSCs right now, right? So see this 41? We actually have already met that on the PSCs,
But what's,
because that's 100% collectible. What's gonna be the big kicker in question mark is this 1.7. Because we don't collect, if our percentages are low anywhere, in my mind, what we ought to do is probably take 96% of this, maybe not 96, maybe closer to 92, 93%. Bonita can come up with the percentage if she'd like. 66, maybe here. Mobile homes is probably going to be closer to 66 because it's like personal property. I think we've already collected on the machinery and tools, it's, to be honest with you,
Well, the report y'all received in December in the board packet, the amount budgeted 22,057,904 is what you had a while ago. So right now, you've got a balance of 2.9 on your budgeted amounts to be collected. You've
Are you
got
in total?
13%.
are you in total? Are you looking at
I'm
the,
looking at December that went up, not yours. I'm looking at our report.
but the
that
total
dropped.
general property taxes total?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure I was, yeah, we still have 2.4 to collect, but now that includes delinquencies too.
Right,
That number does. This one does not.
right.
We haven't factored delinquencies in here at all.
there's a reason I didn't major in finance at Virginia Tech, but as I understand it, to make my, we budgeted $19,871,000. We have, there's bills and so forth that have gone out for 22, so that's, and it doesn't include delinquent property taxes.
No, sir, it does not.
And so anything above 19,
Is gravy.
and hopefully it'll be close to that bottom number of 2,668,457 will help. And also, if we can collect unpaid property taxes and so forth, we could move out of a lot of our budget problems, right? All right, and, but regional jail and CSA, I don't know what that stands for, Confederate States of America.
Comprehensive
Comprehensive
Services
Services
Act.
All right.
Would you like to discuss those two expenditures? It wasn't,
That's going to be the two things that's going to eat at this 2.6 million, right?
the jail, well,
Just like what happened last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we were somewhat, so it wasn't just a flat out.
And then we got into some
whatever it
rescue.
added up to 1.4 million, now we had to just reach in and.
And they're both,
It was a mixing of those two things coming together.
they're both trending extremely high this year.
They sure are.
I mean, I know CSA is a little over 200,000 more than it was last year at
Yeah.
the same time, so.
yeah, we're averaging, it should probably end up, we're gonna have to do an extensive budget adjustment on CSA, there's no doubt about it. There's no, this is not a Carroll County problem.
No, it's a-
This is a statewide problem, this is a nationwide problem, because the federal government's even trying to figure out how to get some changes put into place. We're probably going to have to adjust the expenditures up to 2.274, which is an additional $947,000.
And that's just in CSA,
That's just on the CSA expenditure.
so, and in jails, it will be,
Well, hold on, because I'm not done with CSA, but on the revenue side, it looks like, and I could be wrong, I don't handle revenue, and I'm not really supposed to answer a lot of questions about the revenue. So I will, I'm not going to put Benita on the spot because I didn't ask her the question, but she certainly can look later.
But regardless, this
Hey.
concept's really important, regardless of what the number is.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's also going to be an offsetting revenue on the CSA of close to $900,000.
29%.
So your net impact to the budget is going to be about $45,000, from what I'm seeing. I would love to have another independent party look over those numbers and come up with their own estimates,
Is that
because
not
two
twen-
minds are much better than one.
Our portion of that is 29.1%, correct?
It
that's what-
averages out to that, yes.
We got a reassessment coming up this year.
No, it was put into place last year. No. We don't want to know, we got a few more years, 3 more.
I had a complaint the other day, I never heard anybody, mention anything. Said his house was lower, than he had in it. I mean, he remodeled, and he had insurance was higher than the house value. But he said if his house burnt, I was intended to ask the insurance person.
Yeah.
He said tax value was all it would pay.
Replacement value is usually what they will.
I can answer that. I had 8 years of experience, okay, but that was back in 1800. But, so with that disclaimer, when you build a brand-new house, whatever the cost to replace it starts out dead even, okay? But building costs, generally, they take off and leave the market value of the house, okay? So even though it started out and you built $100,000 house, so to build that house back right then, it cost you $100,000. But on down the road, to build the same house back, it may cost $150,000 to build that same house back in 15 years, but the market value is way low, and it's much lower. So most companies insure for replacement cost, so even though that Carroll County says the value on the market is $125,000, the replacement cost to build that house back if it burnt is $150,000. So State Farm or whoever, they insure the house to replace, not to market value, okay? And most of these people in the county that auctioneers and so forth, they'll say that the property for a long time wasn't bringing the
Assessed value.
assessed value. But I can also tell you that for a blue million years, the assessed value in Carroll County was much lower than the market value, okay? And I'm sure all of us have heard people say, well, they're taxing me, they say Carroll County says my house is worth $100,000, but you couldn't build it back for $175, and if I put it on, if I put it on auction, it'd bring $130,000. I mean, so everybody liked that because it meant they paid less taxes. And then the state of Virginia passed a law that said you had to assess on 100% market value, okay? And
Fair market value.
fair market value to willing bidders or buyers pay a going rate. But right now, and if people don't like it in Carroll County, you can go to places like Alexandria City, Fairfax, and their assessed value is like 115% or something, and I'm not willing to go to court on that. But, so, end of my sermon, but new house, the value is what it would cost to replace it right then. But the replacement cost takes off, okay? And so so you insure for replacement costs. However, the market value may be much lower on the house.
Most time what I hear when somebody gets the assessed value, well, I'd like to sell it to them for that, but this one mine was too low,
Well,
I know a couple said the same.
Tell them to contact the commissioner's office right away.
but the sheriff
Just kidding.
The sheriff sets the value on property and stuff, so if you got a question, you need to call him,
So back to the other point, though, is that in some cases, depending on the situation, big budget adjustments aren't necessarily a big disaster as far as what our financial situation is. It's just something that happens as we roll these situations, like what we have with the CSA. And we need to be very careful with the CSA. We need to look hard for duplicate services. We got to make sure we're following the law and everything. I've learned more things about all of the terrible stuff that they help out with than I ever wanted to.
It actually is very sad.
That CSA revenue that you were speaking of, where will that actually come back from?
It comes back from the state.
Okay.
It's,
That's
None of that is shown in anywhere in our budget stuff with the CSA. No federal money is shown in there. Is it shown in this?
It's on the
this
revenue report.
here?
It's on the revenue report.
but
It's,
When you have the additional.
24040.
Number would go up. I'm sorry.
No, it's 240400015.
But how do you argue against criminals being incarcerated for crimes, or how do you argue against the CSA in some of the needy situations they're dealing with?
Well, it's a known fact, and Steve learned it. There's people that abuse that system because they've learned that system.
Exactly.
And that's where a lot of this overreach is coming from, is from the abuse that it receives.
But all those are tied together. CSA and the jail, all that.
Yeah, it's a equal. If your CSA's high, your jail's gonna be high.
And just as a side note, because I asked, hold on. I asked Jackie today, because I knew you guys were asking about the CSA. She's a CSA coordinator. We have 46 kids in foster care. 19 are in therapeutic foster care, 1 is in the independent living program, 13 have residential placement, 7 are in locally approved foster homes, 3 are in the new Fostering Futures program.
And we pick up all the medical, I think, don't we?
That should be under
and 3 are in child home placements. You have 18 kids that are actually getting, or 18 families that are getting community-based services, and we have 6 special education placements.
And those are the expensive ones.
And the residential, the 13 residential placements, you're talking about could be up to $130,000 per child a year.
Yeah, the ones that you don't get dedicated,
But I would not recommend any other placement for them, myself.
I've got to be honest and say that I've learned something tonight, that sometimes all these numbers floating around, it just, it overwhelms me, and,
Let's talk about the per diems, the jail, if we can, for just a second, because that was one of your questions, Rex. This year, we budgeted 1.8 million, and last year, we spent 1.8,086,000. So our estimate was based off what we spent last year. And we're trending $300,000 higher than that. And we've trended almost $400,000 the last 2 years higher than what we had anticipated. You know, when I go back and look at it I've got, in front of me, I have about a 9-year period, and I can pull it up on the screen if it would be helpful for you all. But who would have anticipated us being at this point right now? I would not have. $2.1 million on our per diems are a lot, and there's several things that contribute to that. One is our state responsible inmates that stay in our local facilities because the state has closed down all of their facilities and decided it was cheaper for them to pay $4 a day or $12 a day to us when we're paying $27.50 a day for our people.
And we're getting a deal.
Compared to most.
Yeah.
We really are. I mean,
So is that like the penitentiary sentences, they're keeping them?
they're keeping the state DOC sentences in our local facility.
Not transferring them out till they absolutely have to.
Or until we demand because they have such
Well, they're
medical
bringing them back
issues.
in too. I mean, they're coming from the penitentiary over to New River Valley Jail.
Yeah.
I've not seen that.
I know it is a fact, though.
Okay, and I realize that.
I know.
But, I mean, and we go through, actually, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office goes through those bills for us, with us, to make sure that we're not being charged for anyone we're not supposed to, because especially when you live in an area like we do, they could have charges here in Carroll, they can have charges in Grayson, they can have charges in Wythe. I mean, they can have charges for 3 different jurisdictions that are a participating member. And so it's always good to keep on top of those bills and make sure that we're getting, once they're off the Carroll charge and they fulfill that they take over to another jurisdiction.
not Patrick, because Patrick's
Patrick's
got
not a
their own
member.
reason for jail.
What
Yeah.
locality pays the most, though, do you know?
It used to be Pulaski, then Wythe, then Carroll. Now it is Pulaski, Carroll, and Wythe is really far behind us now. Grayson is catching up to, it's not catching up to us, but Grayson's is also growing at a rate that ours is. And I had a theory about that the other day, and I don't know how accurate or if I could even validate my theory, but a few years ago, we changed from sharing a judge to having a full-time judge. So we may be turning over cases quicker because we have more court dates. It's just a theory, and it's, you know, it's just a change that was due to necessity because our climate has changed, our community has changed.
Let me ask you this. Can't I guess Jackie, is it Jackie, over CSA?
Jackie's over there.
Okay, she has the numbers. Can't we figure out what we're paying per individual? We don't need to know what they're getting, but give us the
You can
total
about
amount.
figure it out.
And then we could base that on our budget figure for next year, so we have an accurate figure. I mean, it seems like every year we have to do a revenue, add
Yeah,
to
but
our
the state
budget
won't
stuff.
even give a full allocation for this, so I would not recommend that Carroll County does either. You don't want to budget,
That's self-defeating if we're not going to budget accurately, or try to budget accurately.
I'd say it's actually strategic, in all honesty. I think it's strategic, just make sure you have enough cushion somewhere else. to make sure that when you get that,
That was my point I made earlier. That's where we've been the last 6 years. We keep going downhill.
Well,
Have you seen-
One theory that gets thrown around in response to that point, which it seems common sense that you wouldn't about what you think you're going to spend, but because there is a certain amount of discretion and judgment involved in how this money gets allocated, and it's difficult to separate black letter law from gray letter law sometimes. The allegation that's made is that if you put the money all out there up front, they'll just spend it and come back for more. And so we try to, and I'm not saying that that is the right way to do it. I'm just saying that it is a philosophy that has been stated around that particular number. And we do actually, we look at it year over year, it's amazing how fast this stuff is growing. We have problems like.
Well, this is not the first, if you go back and read the minutes,
Yeah.
each and every year from back, as far as you can find the minutes, we talked about the CSA and the problems there, so it increases each and every year.
You're right, I've looked at the last 7 myself.
Yeah.
I've seen it the whole way through.
And that's why I'm saying we try to be accurate as we can, so we don't, in the middle of the year, have to come up and do another appropriation, so we know exactly where we're staying, or pretty close to it.
Well, just for a quick example to help you out maybe. In October, the October expenses for foster care services was $120,708. For November, the foster care services was $105,000. So you're at $15,000 difference right there. I mean, it just floats back and forth so much, there's just hardly no way you can do it. Yeah, or something changed. And even the residential, the educational services went from 42 to 34. So, I mean,
Well, as bad as the 46 kids we have in there right now sounds, and as expensive as that is, 3 months ago it was 51.
yeah.
So it does go up and down, and sometimes we get lucky and these kids find homes, or they get assigned to a place where they're going to get better help or whatever. And sometimes
Or they get adopted.
And sometimes 5 of them will just show up in a week. It's like, oh my God, we got 5 more.
and the CSA is almost an unfunded mandate, pretty much.
Oh,
It amounts to.
No, it is one.
I mean, the local efforts you have to put forward it makes it an unfunded.
Because the services are mandated by law, and the 29% is a requirement. So that is a mandate.
They did talk about during the last General Assembly session, moving the educational placement dollars back to the school system.
And that's something VACO is supporting and trying to
Yes.
push through. Whether that happens, who knows?
Which is good, because here you're trying to look at a team, whether it be CPMT or FAPT, when your educational placements came in, we don't have a say in that. We just pick up the bill.
I mean,
And so,
I can tell you that you don't have a clue on some of this. If you haven't been in school day after day after day, and you see these terrible situations, and they're fighting child protective services and all of this, and I can remember situations where you were looking at 5, 6 children in the same house, and we were pushing to get them in there included. So it's still, the number is lower than what it could be, maybe should be. But in support of Rex's comment, I think it would help the board that in the future, you give us a little running, I mean, I don't mean this extensive, but like the regional jail and CSA and the big things that, hit us hard, that you give us an idea of how we're doing or not doing.
I'll be glad to forward to every one of you the same report that she forwards to me. She forwards me one every month, and I'll forward it to all of you. And it breaks out what's going on each month.
I don't even know if I've seen the report you're quoting.
Well,
Is it the laser report?
no, it's a report that she fixes. She does it, because I asked her to do it.
Okay.
You need to take that data from each of those monthly snapshots, and I'd be accumulating it into.
Please do the bottom line.
Well, if you took all those things and added them together, and you're 5 months into it, that's how you're doing for 5 months.
Yeah.
She even goes back to 2013-14 fiscal year and lists what the CSA was for that month. I mean, it's very eye-opening. And
Wow.
that's, I
I'd
mean.
love to see it.
Well, I don't mind. I mean, I
Okay.
figured, I didn't know she wasn't sending it, but I'll send it to you. It's not a problem.
Okay.
It'd be helpful if it was in the chart, which an individual got X number of dollars from.
It's
whatever
kind of,
the-
I don't know how hard it is to break that out. I mean,
That's-
I would say,
I don't know.
I'm on the CPMT board committee, but I don't get to attend because when they've had the meetings, and Steve gets to go, and I'm sure he's, like you said, it's been an eye-opening experience for him. I will share this real quick. I don't mean to keep tying us up with this, but I got this the other day from the social service director. And this comes from the state, and this is what comes to Carroll County for CSA, Medicaid benefits, the SNAP program, energy assistance, the TANF program, the FAMOUS program, and the child care assistance program that comes from the state into Carroll County is $58,045. That's what comes into Carroll County from those. So that's, I mean, if you take, you take
8 million?
58 million, yep. For those items.
Talking about state-funded items, that's part of the problems in the smaller localities where the state 6 years ago started taking away a lot of the funding.
Shall we start with PPTRA?
Yes.
But as bad as the schools are, the composite index really tells you what percentage we're actually paying the state is.
Basically, what I was left with after that was, are there any questions? But I want to make sure, Rex, because you seem pretty adamant that, we have in this chart, again, only current taxes for real estate, for all these categories, current taxes only, no delinquents in terms of budget versus actual bill. Okay, so anything, we may not meet our delinquent property real estate goal. We may not meet that, okay, because we've got it at 1.2 million. I don't know if we're going to meet that, but we also have an additional 2.6. So really, these budgets are basically an estimate on what you think you're going to be able to do. And if you look at the expenditures in a vacuum, without considering where you're trending over on the revenue, you're going to feel like we're just, the sky's about to fall. But you got to look at where we are on the revenues and how we're doing. Looks like to me, and I'm not a forecasting expert in every arena, but it looks like to me the economy's picking up.
Yeah.
CPI is at like 2.5%. So what that says to me is, when I look at meals tax, when I look at local sales tax, Trump's saying everybody's going to get a raise in February, guess what? People are going to start and go out to eat, and it's going to impact our local budget.
But are we seeing that though?
I think we are.
Since you said that, well, that's something else we need to push. We need to push the ability to do local food taxes and those things that.
At the state level.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bill that's out there that we need to really push for. That would help us
There is a
tremendously.
bill for local taxes
Yes.
in general, there's a specific one for tobacco tax.
Yes.
And we're working in partnership with the county to push that very hard. With some outside help, whatever.
But for whatever reason, it's been very ingenious to me because we've pushed that bill for the last 10 years. And it's the Republicans
That's exactly.
who don't want it because it increases the taxes.
Taxes.
Where in my mind, all you're doing is equaling the playing field between the cities and the towns and the counties. So I haven't figured out that argument, but that's what we've gotten time and time and time again.
Yeah.
What's the 622?
So maybe with a few more Democrats down there, might have some chance.
Okay.
And I had to get, Steve
I
actually
believe
put this
God
in.
controlled that coin toss that kept through.
I have a question, and this probably needs to go to Benita, I don't know. If there's someone that's in land use and they're delinquent, are they still getting that credit?
That was exactly what we wanted to.
They have to,
I know, like,
I cannot really disclose to you if someone is in land use or not, but I can tell you that they have to pay their tax in order to stay into the program.
Okay.
And that program is done through the commissioner's real estate department.
I guess that's just, that would, to me, would seem,
Right.
if they're delinquent on their taxes, they shouldn't be receiving that.
In their department, the real estate department notifies anybody.
Okay.
Do they get a rollback?
that's what the rollback is, right?
No, the rollback is if they sell
Change use.
property
Ah,
that
and you
is
have to
in
recap.
there, then they recap, those years.
Okay.
They have to go back and pay those years on that.
Do we know,
Right? 6 years, 5 years.
is there a percentage that is there a rate that we can adjust if we wanted to? Or is that just a certain rate on that drops the tax?
No, the values were set. I'm sure those could be redone. Would have to go back and look at the ordinance.
So that was a question I think we had, was whether or not we could adjust that if we
I
needed
think
to
the
or wanted
rate,
to.
Per acre right now is between $600 and $800
So
per
we-
acre.
The rate, I'm sorry, can you say that
The
again?
taxing
Tax
rate
rate.
is
I understand a
$600
lot
to
of them down the
$800
state
per acre on the land that's in
tree
land
farmers
use.
and this and that.
So they're getting a large tax
The
rate.
trees though, then they got to pay the taxes.
They're only paying on $600 to $800 value
Correct.
per acre.
Whereas if
On
it's
their
not in
tax.
land use, it could be
Instead of
2,000, 2,500 per acre.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pretty nice program for people that
And
qualify.
utilize it.
Could you send us the ordinance or whatever it was, we could just look at that, or?
Or is it in,
I don't
it's in our
think so.
code book, right?
It should
I
be.
tried to find it where it was.
I gotta
can get it
admit,
for you if you need it.
I gotta admit, I came in here in a panic, because I thought we were looking at $2 million, $1.9 million or something, upcoming deficit, and I was about to panic, and, I'm not smiling, but, it's not as bad as I thought, and,
We've got 5.5 more months, 5.5, yeah. June 30th, we really get a lot in the state, on the state side in June.
There's things we can do better. There's lots of things we can do better and more efficient, and I think we all agree with that. I'm glad that you were looking at personal property taxes in other areas, because I think we're really low on our personal property taxes.
Oh, do you want me to pull that up real quick?
Yes.
I think about a rule of thumb around the area is about 230.
Yeah, it's much higher.
And I think that's what a lot of localities have done.
Well, my thoughts on
They're-
my thoughts on that are, you got more renters than you do landowners. And then,
Is that blurry? Oh.
Joe Neal, you and Philip will be going around the state on behalf of Carroll County,
How do I
and
fix it?
you'll be explaining this to all the localities.
No problem,
Zoom in.
no problem.
Well, you can make it bigger.
Yeah, zoom it.
Is it still too small?
no, you're good, I can see it.
Okay, all right. And you had talked about the vehicle license fee too, Rex, so I
Yes.
went through and I kind of wanted to make sure we were getting all the numbers. So, and it rounded up. We're actually 69.5, or 69 and a half, not 70 cents on the real estate. It rounded up for a decimal point. But if you look at, the first column's real estate taxes, Carroll's are on top, Grayson is 49 cents, Galax City 76, Bland 60, Pulaski County 64, width is 49, Smith County 74, and Washington County is 63, and Floyd is 55 on the real estate taxes. So looking at that by itself, we're a little bit higher on real estate tax. Personal property, we're at 195, Grayson's 175, and then pretty much, except for Washington County's 170. After that, everybody's over 2. Galax City 225, Blaine County 229, Pulaski County is 234, 235, Wythe County is 227, Smith 230, Floyd County is 225.
Are they taxing at 100% value?
I think that might be something I read somewhere too. I'm glad you said that. I read that.
There's supposed to be below on real estate.
No, that's on
Personal property.
On personal property. And one of the reasons, because we talked about, and forgive me, have been doing this for a while now, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but we really looked hard at changing the personal property tax rate. The reason that we didn't at the time that I remember is because in order to realize the same amount of money, 1 cent on your real estate gains you about, depending on the year, 200. Okay, just an estimate. Well, personal property, you have to raise it that much more because the collection rate is not as high on your personal property as real estate. So you have to end up with a $2.95 personal property tax rate instead of 1 cent on the real estate. I think too, wasn't that code section change? We were a little bit worried about how that was going to impact the relief because of the code section change
On the trucks.
in the same year that this would happen, if memory, so to speak. Pretty much everyone on the vehicle license fee is $20 except for Wythe, who's at 20. Oh, no, wait, and Bland. Wythe and Bland are 20.
How many of those county, and this is just I'm just throwing this out, how many of them still use stickers, county stickers?
Oh, I didn't ask that.
Okay.
I can't ask. Do you?
It's a hit and miss.
Yeah.
Depends on the locality. I mean, that is an exceptional collection tool.
Well, I think it's a great collection tool.
The personal property has to be paid in order to get your decal. And the big man back here, he enforces it.
You daggone right.
They don't, and the decal.
And if we require every vehicle, whether it's got a tag on it or not, what most counties along the 95 corridor do, and you get rid of the junk cars as well. People have a tendency to go sell them at the junkyard rather than pay that $25 fee.
So would you all be changing that up to, right now, it's if it's on the road, right?
Yeah, if it's a title
That's the
vehicle.
way it was. If it's active on the road, active
Well, but it's trailers, it's not agriculture stuff, it'd be vehicle trailers and vehicles. I've got 2 vehicles sitting that I ain't using. I might be taking them to the junkyard if I had to pay $25 for them. But in Chesterfield County, when I lived there, I had a vehicle that I was working on, a 63 Mustang. I had to pay a sticker on it. I didn't have tags on it, but I had to have a county sticker on that vehicle.
Wythe County that charges a fee for utility trailers?
But some
several
places
counties.
do.
But we need to be careful because at times I've made the statements, we're going to put everything on the table, you have to, and look at it to cut. Well, then I've already heard about how we're going to cut all these employees and stuff. And so and the rumors run rampant. Everything is really on the table as far as a better way of doing it and saving money. But no, we're not going to. I cannot see us cutting personnel and those kind of things. And yeah, we may do these tags. I think it's a good idea.
If you do consider that, upon considering that, they have now changed, it starts this year, doesn't it, JD, where the inspection sticker, it's already done. Inspection sticker goes to the left-hand corner of the windshield. if you're inside the vehicle.
Is that for visibility more than anything, JB?
All the new smart cars have a sensor in front of that.
Oh, okay.
See, put on there.
Well, is there anything that says that if we did go back to stickers, they couldn't go beside of
I
that?
don't know, but it needs to go beside it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does need to go beside
Yeah.
of it, but I think your size will change and different things. I've got the specs in the office if you need them.
Could you research into that a little bit and see?
Yep,
If we
Do
can
you
get,
mind if I ask a question?
sure.
I'd also be interested in seeing how much revenue we're losing by not having the stickers.
You've asked that before
well, I don't know how
also.
we can figure that out.
Yeah.
Just delinquent tax.
I remember you asking that some years back.
I
See,
think that the decals are more effective collection tool than DMV stops.
Yep.
Yes.
let me tell you why.
Okay, please do.
All right, if I got my vehicle right now, well, of course, I have to think what year it is. But if I had a year one, let's say if it's just, I tear it up and wreck it, take the tags off, go to DMV, you ain't collecting nothing on it. But if I take the tags off and take it to DMV, you're not collecting the tax on me.
He's talking about DMV.
You are collecting tax.
I know, but what I'm saying, yeah, if you try to do a DMV stop, that's based on your tags that are assigned to your vehicle. So you can't stop me from getting, and you don't stop every vehicle, you stop the one.
Right. In other words, you can't stop on every vehicle in that household.
Only the
if
one.
they haven't paid their tax.
But a DMV stop will stop, if they go to get their license renewed or their tags renewed, right?
Just their tax.
Just their tags? Okay.
So I don't have to renew my tags. I don't have to pay my
Some
tax.
people are under the misconception that their driver's license is included in on that.
But, and the thing with, I think with the county stickers is you've got a police agent. I mean, and I remember, those guys used to love to write tickets for that.
Plus you see them, and you see
Well,
them.
then they in turn get revenue.
Yeah, they get something back for it.
All of those stop.
Yeah.
Right.
And it gives you a reason to stop for some other,
Yes,
always something.
yes.
yeah.
Well, you can't say that.
Yes. I mean, it's just ideas out there.
Yeah.
We need to get Steve to look at an option, and we probably need to look at doing that, because we're gonna have to get started on it if we're gonna do it next year, after July 1.
See, the thing of it is, another issue with it is, and I don't know, I think Fran feels the same way. We're, on your 2017 tax ticket, we are billing you, we billed you ahead for your 2018 VL fee. You cannot bill ahead and keep accurate records. I mean, it's just constantly turning it around, turning it around. So then she has to do a huge supplement.
And this isn't
And how much is on it? 1,500. So you're saving employee time also, and time in the office.
So when would we need to get that
Well,
started?
this is kind of what happened when we went into it that first year. You actually, the taxpayer paid twice. You bought the decal in by April 15th, and then it came out on your tax tickets. But that was why it was billed ahead for the next year.
that if you do it if you change it back to the sticker for next year,
So you'll have a gap in your revenue.
you'll have a gap.
You're gonna
in
have
revenue.
you're gonna have a small gap in your revenue.
But when you started, it,
Till
you gave,
April.
so it's actually gonna even out.
Yeah, it'll even out, but in other words, July, August, and September, where we have the drag time, will be a little bit more there. Yeah, be a little bit more there. But then you're gonna go right to billing and sending them out and have them purchased by April 15th. And a lot of people in the areas, this is what they still do. They pay their personal property tax and sometimes their real estate with the money they get back on their state or federal income tax. And that April 15th date is still stuck in people's mind. I mean, nobody's gonna forget that. that's the date you used to have to purchase by.
I just like I talk too much, but like any discussion of the budget and so forth, tonight's been just wonderful for me to what I picked up. But it also, it helps having the treasurer and commissioner and.
That's what I was gonna say, just let me go with the, so we can advise us
I
on
mean,
this stuff.
the only way we're going to get a handle and keep it under control for the future is a team effort where we all want the best for the county, and it's, you know, and I for one, you know, I don't like it when we're looking for who to blame and who's guilty and those kind of things, and we work better as a team, and it should be a team effort.
Thank you.
So what, the best time would be maybe July or something to put that in effect, to go in effect in April?
Have to be.
The tags? Have to be, you'd have to do it.
Before July, so it would work into your all's.
Budget process.
Yeah, in your budget process.
Let's see if we can get Steve to give us a look at the states down, I mean, the counties down east who charge per vehicle, regardless where it's on the road or not. That way you can take, Pulaski has a nice looking, of course, they put something else out there, but had 4 or 5 vehicles, but they showed after they showed all these vehicles and around the house, and after some ordinance they put in, they were gone.
Yeah.
You might see that with some of these old vehicles that sit around.
There was a time when somebody went through the county policing that.
Chesterfield County uses their building official to do it.
Yeah, well, we can do the same thing. All you have to do is call in when the building official's out there. He sees one that got a tag in, he calls in and says, such and such place, we got a vehicle.
Right.
But anyway, that's Steve to do that.
Any other discussion on the budget? Revenues, I'm sorry.
I'd just like to recommend to the whole board, and everybody except me, we would be chairman or vice chairman, and I think it is critical that the chairman and all of us, when we got a question, that we go to the county administrators and meet with us, either Steve and or Nikki. And the problem I had was, I did that several times a week, however, I didn't, it was always on issues or where are we on industry, but it very seldom did I ever sit down and say, how's it going, Nikki, on the money part?
I know, you didn't like the answer I gave you that one time.
Yeah, I know. But a chairman or vice chair, in any office, I need to be coming by the office when I can, and if it's convenient, and getting information or report, because I'll be honest, I thought I was in a panic. I thought we were like $2 million, $1.9 million.
Don't panic yet. Wait until about mid-April-ish.
Well, why, I mean, this is my issue. Why wait till then? Why not address those issues now? If we can anticipate this coming up, why not address it?
Well, I mean, I think we have been addressing those issues. You had a whole slew of budget amendments from the last meeting, and that's kind of addressing over time.
We know we're going to have an increase of appropriations, probably the jail and CSA.
CSA. We're probably going to need a public hearing on the CSA, I would imagine.
I actually think that she's planning on coming next month.
Okay.
Yeah. We discussed it in the meeting the other night, so.
Okay.
Let's
So
move
we
on.
can go ahead and put in next month's agenda if you'd like, in the consent agenda.
Move on to the CIPs.
I got all these papers here, hold on.
CIP stands for.
Thank you,
Capital
Benita, if you're
Improvement
leaving.
Plan.
Thank you.
See ya. Stay and have more fun.
Thank you, Fran, very much for coming.
Nita, Fran.
Capital Improvement Plan.
Okay, I get bogged down on some of these initials sometimes.
Samantha.
Capital improvement plan.
Thank you.
Dr. Littrell, I'll look at lost use of the capital.
If you get that, would you just copy us all on? Sure. Thank you.
I don't even know if I have a CIP. Hold on. Do you want me to pull it up on the screen, or are we good, pretty
I'm good
much?
here.
Okay,
I'm
all
available.
right. What you have in front of you is the CIP, Capital Improvement Plan. And what that is, it's a 5-year plan, starting from fiscal year 2019, which is the budget year that we are going to be budgeting for, to 2023. I will say that these are basically for expenditures over $5,000. That is typically the benchmark that most localities are using, that I've talked to on their CIP. So for the county fair, as you know, they've been talking at length about having a building, a shed of some sort in a building to add to the fairgrounds. So you'll see there's a $100 expenditure for that. PA system in the bridge culvert to kind of, that land adjacent to the fairgrounds, to kind of correct that, to get some of the runoff of the water corrected. So the county fair CIP request was $125,000. IT is asking for 20, and I'm really kind of looking at 2019. Right now, if you want me to go over in detail the years out, just let me know when I finish 2019. We've got a request for a plotter for GIS, a new plotter. I guess that plotter that we have now is probably 7, 8 years old, I think. But yeah, I think it's like 8 years old, so they're asking for a replacement. There have been, on a lot of the department CIP requests, a lot of people have actually pushed some stuff out just because they knew we were having some financial trouble. So I think the commissioner's vehicle actually got pushed out a year per Fran, not anyone else is doing, but the department has. The electoral board has $5,000 from the CIP they provided last year for electronic poll books. Court did not have a request. Gerald did not have a request today. He's going to try and finish up some projects he has in this year's budget.
Let me back up just 1 second.
Okay.
Do we have a pool vehicle, let's say, for Commissioner Revenue to use, rather than purchasing another one? I mean, how many we got?
They're more than
vehicles
welcome to use a vehicle.
I mean, it would probably be,
Yes, they do have a vehicle, it's pretty good. I forget how old. It's on that list right there.
but when I'm asking, we're looking at getting a new one. Don't we have a vehicle that sits out here occasionally that we could utilize for that period of time when they need it, to check it out?
I guess what we run into,
Vehicle.
sometimes what we run into, and we have run into in the past few years, is Gerald will have a training up in Richmond, and Jason with IT has a need to go somewhere. We end up sometimes with no vehicle available. But you could buy a vehicle and put it in the pool vehicle, and it could be utilized that way. But it's kind of like Jim Whitten. I guess when you look at what Jim Whitten does.
Well, you can't take you, I mean, he's
Okay.
out there every day.
Well, frequently, the Commissioner of Revenue's office has to go out and assess new construction.
We actually have an extra in our pool that is being utilized by fire and rescue and has been for almost a year now. So they actually keep it
For training.
so they do every week.
What is it, a Jeep?
Focus. Ford Focus.
Shelby Mustang,
1969.
650 horsepower.
Okay, the next category is highway safety, and what that is basically capital funded by the Highway Safety Fines and Forfeitures. They actually went and researched a leasing option instead of buying, which is going to upgrade their fleet considerably, which is it's been kind of exciting. But you'll notice that this year, the request actually went down in 2019. So they're going to have $80,000 for the vehicle lease and $40,000 for vehicle equipment.
Is it going to increase in 2021, or is that for the old vehicle, the old system?
What's going to happen, I think year one, and if you hear me misspeak, you feel free to speak up. Year one, I think they're going to, the plan was to get, is it 20? No, 10? Yes.
It's
9, okay. It's 9 vehicles now, and that they're going to keep replacing with vehicles. So the first cost is for the 9 vehicles, and then they're going to add another 5, so then the cost is going to be for,
It's a continuing cost.
yeah. Until the end of the lease, and then we can either buy out at the end of the lease, or they sell it and give us credit for that amount on the new lease amount. We don't know, there's some estimates built into these estimates, which is basically what will we get for the value of the vehicle at the end of the term.
One of the things that's good about that is, like, you don't have to have a procedure. Investigators or myself, they suggested we purchase pickups or Durangos. And if you get rid of those vehicles before 75,000 miles, it says we can sell them for what you pay for instead of the price. So you can basically.
Resale value.
Yeah, and it's worth a try.
Yeah.
The lost anything by trying to do that.
Exactly. Pick up a sale
Which, it's smart to think.
Out of the box.
Yeah.
Everybody's.
And it may be an option to look at for other kind of vehicles, as long as you don't go over the miles, and get rid of them on time, and don't go over the damage. The 2 things you don't forget.
Is it expensive to buy mileage up front?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Just curious.
Their preference is if you get them, they get premium, they get a higher premium for the vehicle if it has less than 75,000. The trip's over 75,000, it starts going down with it, what it's worth every month. This specifically pickups and all-wheel drive vehicles, and that's what the Charger government said.
And then they have a 40 by 60 metal storage building for $75,000. So their total CIP request for 2019 is $195,000. We have a truck replacement for the building official for $20,000. We have an ambulance purchase of $135,000. You have an offsetting grant down at the bottom. We estimated conservative on the grant for that ambulance. We estimated at a 50-50 when it might come in at 80-20. So there's an offsetting revenue of $67.50 down at the bottom of the CIP on the second page. That's for the stretchers there. Also asking for a ventilator for $5,000. There has been a request for, and I probably should have put, for cane of refuse, $40,000. It's a used roll-off truck. Does that sound right? Okay, for cane of refuse, okay. I want to make sure I was using, I didn't want to sound like a girl.
For us to use to haul
Yes.
instead of having.
Yeah.
Use it for, that's what it is.
Okay. Then for maintenance force, you have portion of roof repair and replacement for $10,000, equipment for $6,000, HVAC maintenance of $38,500, vehicle replacement for $25,000. I don't think theirs would be successful in a pool program either because of the off-site locations that they have to maintain. $5,000 for lighting. Ricky's been under the process of changing all the lighting out to LED to try and save electrical costs moving forward. There is $52,500 in here for paving, $5,000 for concrete, and $75,000 for construction. There's actually a supporting schedule that might be handy for you all to have, which is the department submission. Because basically it would tell you what that construction is earmarked for.
Where's the paving going to be?
That's what I was going to say. The department list would probably be helpful for you all, and I can send all those to you as well. as kind of supporting documentation for what the projects are and for what year. Because he's got his to a paving at the industrial park, at the daycare center, paving, he's got a few different off-site locations that's scheduled. Floor maintenance, $10,000, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but they've been replacing, I think they started with the PSA, and they moved to the health department, then they moved to social services. So $10,000 for floor maintenance, another $5,000 for concrete, $7,000 for lighting, which is also LED, $5,000 for paving, $10,000 for the roof repair. You got $28,000, I'm not using one with grid lines, Rex, so. For door maintenance. $185,000 for HVAC repair. And that's for the complex itself, that's for this building.
On vehicles, one of our biggest, or top 10 taxpayers in the county is, and the only automotive is Jeff Johnson, and a lot of these things, you know, I don't think that they would stand a chance on beating a state bid or something, but if we were looking at buying a used vehicle, I think it'd be good business practice just to touch base with them and see what they could do. I mean.
Yeah, I think we contacted them on one of our last vehicles, and they said they couldn't compete with that.
I just think it's good business.
But I agree with you.
Actually, it was a new vehicle, but it did not need to be a pursuit rated vehicle.
It might be, if we need one for the revenue office, that one might be what
But
you're going to get like that.
your vehicles on the road,
3 or 4
pursuit
years old.
vehicles need to be top of the line. Now, I argue
And
that.
I have the right rated tires as well. Do what?
He said,
I said that their tires have to be special too.
Next, we have parks. Basically refurbish the playground equipment, $3,000. We get inspected every year, annually. There are some changes sometimes that we have to make to the playground equipment. An additional picnic shelter. A location has not been identified yet, but there's money in here for an additional picnic shelter. You've got $8,000 in for football equipment. If we want to continue building the trail system, there's $5,000 in the budget for that. There's also an additional $6,000 for the new playground systems. We put a new piece of equipment out in Playground 2000 this past year, the Spider. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but there's also...
Rex and Robbie were over there playing on it.
Yeah, they spun me off.
So there's $2,000 for the adult exercise equipment. That seems to have been pretty popular, from what I understand.
Where's that?
It's
on the trail, over there around the playground area and around along the trail.
Okay, for a grand total of $30,000 in CIP requests for parks. The last CIP is economic development. It's $50,000 in the budget for some economic development projects. This year, we have $200,000 in economic development
That's what I was
projects.
getting ready to say, is that?
Yeah.
That's not sufficient. I was getting ready to say, there's some other adjustments we can make that improve that.
Well, it's just being presented tonight, so if you feel like any changes need to be made, and I can send the supporting documentation to be helpful, especially on Ricky's.
Mr. Chairman, we'll soon be here 2 hours.
I know, sir.
and
It's time to,
I'm about brain dead anyway. 2
That's-
hour workshop.
that was the last of the CIP anyway. Just everybody look over that and take it into consideration. We do need to go in closed session for just about 5 or 10 minutes, I think. I mean, that's entirely up to you. If you want to do it now, we'll do it now and be done, or...
Well, all right, there's a couple of situations that I want to very quickly make you aware of. There's going to be some ads in the paper for people. I mean, it's been literally 5 minutes.
All right. I have a motion for us to enter a closed session.
I'll make a motion to go to closed session.
A1,
A1 and A5. I have a motion.
could do A7.
I have a motion from Rex. Do I have a second?
I
Got a second from Phil. Have a vote, Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Dr. Littrell.
Yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Go into closed session.
All right. Very quickly then, Recreation Department, still see ads in favor for 2 part-time part-time.
We want to throw the sheriff and the